Hey, it's Ross from rosslukeman.com. Today I want to talk to you about how to monitor and control your local power system in your van or RV from anywhere in the world using the Victron remote monitoring portal. So specifically, we're going to connect our GX device from Victron. This is a Servo GX. It's going to collect data from all the other components in the system, and it's going to upload those to the portal. Specifically, we have a solar charge controller, we have a BMV 712 battery monitor, and I even have a water tank monitor. This could also be a fuel tank monitor. Anything connected to the Servo GX is going to be uploaded to the portal, and there are several reasons why we might want to set this up. First off, it's going to graph the data of what your system is doing over time. So, for instance, it's going to show what your solar panels are producing on a daily basis. It's going to show your battery state of charge and maybe how low your battery gets on an average day. And when you graph this data over weeks and months and years, you're going to be able to see trends and potentially optimize the design of your system. So you may want to add a little bit of battery capacity, or you may not be bringing in enough solar, so you decide to add one additional solar panel. So you can optimize the system design once you're able to get that bird's eye view of what your system is doing. We can also set up alarms so that if you are away from your system, you can have the VRM Portal email you. Let's say you set up an alarm for when your battery gets down to 30%. The VRM Portal can email you to let you know, so you could potentially take action to fix the problem if your battery has gotten a little bit too low. We can also have other people log in and look at our system data. I did this the other day. I had a student in New York. I'm in Texas, and his system was not functioning properly. So I was able to log into the VRM portal and look at what his system was doing in real time. Now, in that particular case, I ended up looking at photos of his system, and I saw that a wire was out of place. We were able to move that wire to the correct terminal, and that solved the problem. But what you can do with the VRM portal is you can photograph your physical system and the physical wiring, and you can upload those photos to the portal. So if someone does come in and look at your system, they'll see that real-time data as well as be able to look at the physical wiring of your system. So that can be really useful. We can also control the system as if we're standing right in front of it. So with the Servo GX, I have this GX Touch 50 screen. And basically, I can pull up this screen from the other side of the world in the VRM portal. I can turn things on and off. I can update the firmware in my various devices. Pretty much anything I can do standing in front of the system, I can do from the other side of the world using that VRM portal. And there are more uses that I'll get into in just a second. What we're going to do is step one, we'll set up a VRM account. And then I'll show you how to link up your GX device to that account and get your local system talking to the portal. But before we get into that, if you're interested in your overall power system for your van or RV, not only solar power, but also shore power and alternator power, I have a resource that you may be interested in called the Ultimate Van Power Cheat Sheet. It's got a discussion of those three major charging sources, solar, shore, and alternator power, and how they all have strengths, but they also each have weaknesses. But when you bring them together in a holistic power strategy, it's going to make sure that you have a good charge source no matter where you go out on the road, so you can enjoy your travels out there and you're not going to be worried about running out of power. There's also a discussion of different battery chemistries and the strengths and weaknesses of those. That's going to help you narrow in on which battery type is going to be right for your situation. And then lastly, there is a really interesting diagram that is essentially your whole power system on one page. It's going to show those three major charging sources at the top, solar, shore, and alternator power. And it's going to show the connections of how they make their way through the system, charge up your batteries, and how that power gets distributed to your end devices such as your phone charger or your microwave. For instance, what are the connections between, say, your solar panel and that microwave? So it's a really illuminating diagram that I think you'll find useful. To get your own copy of the Ultimate Van Power Cheat Sheet, all you have to do is click that link below or go to rosslukeman.com/vanpower. So with that, let's hop onto the computer and we'll set up a VRM account. To set up a VRM account, what you want to do is go to vrm.victronenergy.com and it's going to take you to this general information page where you can read more about the capabilities of VRM. You can see they have apps for both Apple and Android here. We can click on See VRM in Action to look at some demo installations. But for our purposes, we just want to click on Login either here, or you can also find the Login button here at the top. Now, we don't have an account yet, so we're going to go to the bottom and click on Register for Free. And we're just going to enter our information. And then we're going to click Register. So it's going to say registration completed. Please check your email for an account verification email. So we'll go into our email client. You'll receive an email from Victron that says verify your Victron Energy account. So we'll click on that. And then it just says click this link to verify your account. We'll click there. And we are now inside the Victron Remote Management Portal. And it's immediately going to ask us to set up an installation. And we're going to have to select a product that will start our installation. And we're going to pick the Serbo GX here on the top left. And we're going to hit kind of a dead end here. You can see it says Add Installation ID. This is the VRM Portal ID. That is kind of like a serial number that's located in the Serbo GX. So we need to go over to the Serbo and pull this ID. So let me show you where to find that now. To locate our VRM Portal ID, what we want to do is start at the main Serbo GX screen, tap the screen and click on Menu on the bottom right. Scroll all the way to the bottom where it says Settings. Go ahead and click on that. We're going to scroll down to where it says VRM Online Portal. Click on that. And you can see our VRM Portal ID is there as the second item. We want to write that down or take a picture. And this ID is specific to your exact Serbo GX device, so your number will be different from mine. And then we want to enable data logging here at the top, and we can also set an interval for how often we want it to upload data. We can toggle if we want a secure connection to the internet. And then there are some other parameters here which I won't go into, but I do want to point out the VRM two-way communication. We want to turn that on if you want to be able to update the firmware and control your devices from the VRM portal wherever you are in the world. You can not only upload data from your local system to the portal, but you can have control of your system from the portal. So go ahead and turn that on. We're going to hit the back button to go back to the settings menu. We need to do one other thing. We need to make sure the Serbo GX is connected to the internet so that it can upload data to the portal. So in this instance, I'm going to use the Wi-Fi signal that's here in the room. If you have a van or RV where you don't have permanent Wi-Fi available, you can use the GX LTE 4G from Victron Energy. I'm going to feature that device in my very next video, and that is going to use the cell tower network to connect your local power system to the internet. But for simplicity, we're just going to hop on the Wi-Fi network here so I can show you how to connect to the VRM portal. So we're going to scroll down to Wi-Fi, click on that, click on Wi-Fi networks. It's going to pull up any networks that are in range. You're going to find your network, enter the password, and as you can see, I'm already connected to my Wi-Fi modem. So we're good to go. This Serbo GX is connected to the internet. We're going to hit the back button, and we're going to go back over to the computer. We've got our VRM portal ID. We're going to enter that into the VRM portal, and this particular power system should be able to upload data to the portal. All right, here we are back at the portal. I'm going to go ahead and enter my VRM portal ID. All right, and we can give the installation a name. So we'll call this sample installation. And we'll hit request access. All right, everything is set up and we are pulling in data from the Serbo GX. So what you see here in this interface is all of the data that you would see if we went over to the Serbo GX and looked at the main screen. We've got our solar information here on the bottom right. We've got our battery monitor on the bottom left, DC power there in the middle. We would have our shore power on the top left, and our AC loads on the top right. This looks just like the screen, or it has the same data that the screen has on the Servo GX. And again, we could be on the other side of the world. You can see it says last updated in real time, so it's currently uploading data. And any tanks, water tanks, fuel tanks that you have are going to be here on the right. You can see my water tank there is showing at 50%. Now, I named that water tank in the Servo GX, and it has pulled in that custom name to the VRM portal. So any custom names that you name your devices with will be pulled into the portal here. If we go down, we have a system overview. Now, there's not a whole lot of data because we've just set up this installation, so it pretty much has data from today. And if we click on the time frame, you can see today here. We'll click on that. We can select this week, this month, this year, last 24 hours. We can look at different data sets and see how our system is doing over time. In our case, we're going to have to let this installation run for a few weeks or months to get a longer term view of what our system is doing. But you can see the graph. It's got parameters for consumption, solar production, and battery state of charge. So that could be really useful. Now, let's say that you want to look at a particular data set that is not displayed here. What we can do is go to the Advanced tab. Now, what I'm going to do is just kind of give you a crash course of the VRM portal. I don't want to make this video too long, so I encourage you to get in here and play around, but I'm going to try to give you an overview of what the portal can do. So we'll go to the Advanced tab on the menu. And this is where we can bring up what's called widgets. So widgets are basically going to be a little graph of a particular data set that you want. Now, we can kind of click on some default widgets that can be brought in from our various devices. So these are all the devices in my current installation. The gateway is going to be the Servo GX itself. So let's just click on Gateway, and you can see there are 8 potential widgets that we can bring in and turn into a graph. So let's say that we want to graph the battery state of charge. So that's going to be the battery percentage. We can just click on that, and it's going to turn it into a little widget or a little graph at the bottom of this page. And then we could do battery power as well. On the solar charger, we could come in and do, let's say on the solar charger, we don't like the widgets that are available. So we'll close that out, and we can come down to the bottom and we can click on Custom Widget, Create Custom Widget. And this, let's say we want to know the solar panel voltage over time. So we'll name our widget Solar Panel Voltage. The device that we're going to use for that is the solar charge controller. It always collects the solar panel voltage. Select parameter is going to be that PV voltage for photovoltaic voltage. And you can see the graph will populate. So this is the solar panel voltage coming in today. Now what we can do is we can select additional parameters to show on this graph. So we could select the solar charger again, and a second parameter could be, let's say, battery temperature. I don't think my solar charger is collecting battery temperature, but if it was, it would populate here on this graph. Let's pick a parameter that will actually show up. Let's do current. I think that one will show up. So it's going to graph the current coming out of the charge controller alongside the solar panel voltage. So that is how you would create a custom widget. And then on the Advanced tab, you're going to find this little graph down at the bottom. So let me kind of zoom out here. You will find that that widget here on the bottom right. It's populating right now. But the widgets that I selected, battery state of charge and battery power from the Servo GX, those are the first two over here. And then my custom widget is here on the right. And what's neat, you can see what's flashing on my screen. You can select a point on a graph and it will show you that point on the other graphs. so you can see, you can actually cross-reference between widgets at a certain point in time. So before we get too nerdy, I'll just leave it at that, but there's quite a bit you can do with the Advanced tab and creating custom widgets to look at whatever data sets that you want to look at. Next up, we'll go to the device list. And again, this is showing the devices in my system. The gateway is going to be the Serbo GX. You can see it's going to list the Serbo, the firmware edition, and some other parameters here. Our VRM Portal ID. You can see the two-way communication that we set up. You can see it's enabled there. And then remote console on VRM. That has also been enabled. That's something that I did not mention, but you need to enable that on the Serbo GX, and I'll show you why in just a minute. But the main thing we can do on the device list is we can update the firmware. Here at the bottom, click Firmware Update, and it's going to scan your devices. Again, you could be on the other side of the world. It's going to check all of your devices to see if they have the latest firmware, and if they do not, then you can update them from the VRM portal. So we'll let it go ahead and finish scanning. So here are the two devices that were updatable from the portal, and you can see that both of them say up to date, so we'll go ahead and leave them alone, but that's how you would update the firmware. Now let's go to the settings. And I don't want to get too deep into the settings, but these are where you can change the name of the installation and some other parameters. You can upload an avatar photo for this installation. If you have, say, 100 installations, you could have different photos to identify them. You can also set up a tag. And this is if, again, if you have a whole lot of installations, you can tag them with different tags. So for installations in Texas, we could say this is the Texas system. And if you're in the United States and you had systems in different states, you could tag them with the state that they were located in. We can also set the location of the system. And if you want, you can have your system displayed. You can share your installation worldwide with other Victron users, and they can take a look at your dashboard. We can also set a geofence. If you have a mobile system in a van or RV, you can basically have the VRM portal notify you if the system moves, i.e. your vehicle got stolen and the system moves out of its geographical location. You can have the VRM portal email you. Next up, we have users. And this is where you could invite an installer to become a user of your system and get in and set things up and change things. Or maybe you are the installer, you set up the VRM portal, and then you invite your client or whoever you made the system for, you can invite them to be a user. Next up, we have alarm rules. And I did go ahead and set up an alarm for the water tank. So you can see here, it's just set to go off when the water tank reaches 30%. And then when the tank is refilled to 40%, the alarm will go away. And that's just something simple you can set up to test the alarm capability. And next up at the bottom, you can say who receives an email when an alarm goes off. Since I'm the only user on this installation, it's going to email me. But if you did have multiple users listed here, you could toggle on and off who was going to be notified when an alarm went off in the system. So let's go back and we'll go to remote console. So if you'll recall, this is what I said you need to turn on in the Serbo GX to make sure you have this capability. So in my Serbo GX, this feature is turned on, and I'm going to show you actually in this remote console where to turn that on. So this is as if we're standing in front of the Serbo GX screen. Again, we could be on the other side of the world, and we can play with the screen and go into the settings as if we were standing right in front of the actual power system. So let me go in here. We'll click on menu, go into settings, And if we click on Remote Console here, it says Enable on VRM, and I have that toggled on. That is what enables us to pull up this screen right here from the VRM portal. So you want to make sure you have that setting on so that you can pull up this screen from the portal and control your system as if you were standing right in front of it. So that is the remote console. Next up we have notes. Let me show you that in the menu. Notes there, click on that. If we wanted to add some notes just to remind ourselves what was installed in this installation, you could say, simple system with solar controller and battery monitor. Save. And then we also have photos. And again, like I said at the beginning of this video where I troubleshot my student's system up in New York, I actually was able to look at pictures to see a wire that was out of place. So sometimes looking at the data from the system is not necessarily going to solve the problem. Sometimes you need to look at the physical wiring. So if you want to add photos, you can do that here. Alright, so I've added a photo of the Servo GX. This would help to show just what was plugged into the Servo GX and see how it was wired if I was not right in front of the system. Next up we have share, so we can share our installation with people. This is where you could invite an installer to look at your installation. We could say Joe the installer at gmail.com. Send, and it would send that installer an invite to come and look at your installation. We have a couple of other parameters here. Alarm logs is pretty straightforward. It's just going to keep a log of any alarms that have gone off over time. We currently don't have any because this installation is brand new. And then on reporting, this is where you can generate reports, basically comparing your system to other system setups or other configurations that you might create. This is kind of an advanced feature that I'll let you get into and play around with yourself. But that is the overview of the VRM portal. So this is a very useful tool. I encourage you to get in here and play around and see what you can come up with. Lastly, I want to encourage you to check out the VRM app for your Apple or Android device. It's pretty much got the same data and dashboard that we saw over on the computer, but you can access the portal and control your system from even more locations. So that is my review of the Victron remote monitoring portal. I hope that was helpful. Again, if you want help with your overall power system, you got to grab a copy of the Ultimate Van Power Cheat Sheet. Just click that link below or go to rosslukeman.com/vanpower. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.